All right, Maria, go ahead. What was your question?
I had a question. I have pretty bad problems with math I excel, especially fractions. Maybe you have some videos or something you can send me to help with it.
Okay, so hold that thought till the end, and then we can talk about it like after we end, and then you can let me know, and we can either email back and forth, or we can do a separate Zoom session or something, okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, so a couple things that's kind of before we start talking about math is some housekeeping things. One thing is that as you guys are doing your career PowerPoints, they're looking really good, but some people are sharing them every day. You don't have to share it with me every day. Once you've shared it with me, that's it, you're done. Because I can see it as you make changes to it, okay? So you don't have to share it with me anymore, all right? The other thing is that on Friday, today's the 6th. So on Friday the 8th is the deadline for anybody who is applying for any of the 5th grade jobs. And that would include, trying to think, that would include morning patrols, afternoon patrols, news anchors, and news studio. So anybody who does the technical stuff for news studio, okay? Mr. Angel said he has 25 applicants for all the jobs so far. And he said that they need a total of, I think, 50 people. So they only have about half as many people as they need. So if you're thinking about doing it, go ahead and apply. If it's something that you're not sure about transportation, or you're not sure about if you'd be able to do it all the time, apply for it. And then you can talk to Mr. Angel later on when they go through the selection process and kind of communicate that, and we can talk about it. But if there's any chance you want to do it, now's the time, because once the deadline passes, then you might not get the chance to, okay? Chris, what's your question? Hold on. Go ahead.
I actually forgot about that. I'm going to be going to my stepmother's house today. Could you actually send me another email of that?
I was just going to say, I'm going to resend the link after our Zoom meeting, so that way you guys have that for the job applications. Just make sure you guys fill out all the parts, and then if it answer every question completely, okay? And that way Mr. Angel will have the information he needs when you guys apply, okay?
All right. Because I'm really thinking of being one, so.
Okay, good.
I just need someone to go through it with me, so yeah.
All right, Jace, did I see your hand up? Oh.
Like,
question, Jace?
What?
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I asked you if I could Zoom you like a couple weeks ago, and you never responded. And I was trying to do the PowerPoint, but like it kept saying I needed like an email and something. It wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah, that was the day that Chris had emailed me, and I had set up a Zoom for to meet with both of you. And I sent you an email invitation for the Zoom and an email asking if it would work for you, and I never heard back. So let's talk about it at the end, and we can talk about it. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay. So any questions about 5th grade jobs? That's what I'm taking questions about right now. Any questions about 5th grade jobs or applications? Maria, go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
I have a question. For example, only like 25 people from all 4th grade, or 25 people from our class?
25 people from all of 4th grade. So, now the thing is that the weird thing is that our 4th grade group right now is the smallest class, like our smallest group or grade level in the whole school. So they already kind of knew that they weren't going to get as many as they needed, but it was a lot less than they expected. And I think because we're at home and we're not in school for them to kind of keep talking about. So if there's any chance at all that you want to do the job, go ahead and apply for it. And then if it's a transportation concern or something like that, that's something that they can address afterward, okay?
Yeah, already applied.
Okay, good. Beckham, go ahead.
So is safety patrol do they start from the sidewalk to the car line, or how does that work?
Well, safety patrol is actually, they need a lot of safety patrols. They need more of those than they do of the news studio, because safety patrol is all over the school. They have people that are in the kindergarten and 1st grade hallways. They have people upstairs, just like we have in our blue hallway. There's people by the bus loop. There's people by the parent pickup line. And then it's also, there's a morning crew and an afternoon crew. Some people can only do morning or afternoon, and some people can do both. So safety patrol, they're like all over the school. So there's lots of different positions for that one, okay?
Okay.
Addison, go ahead. I think you have to, yeah, go ahead.
about safety patrol, what if you don't get chosen, like to be a safety patrol?
Did you apply?
Yeah.
You applied? Okay, so what happens is after the application, then me and Miss Navarrete we're asked a recommendation and we're given like different things to score everybody on. And then after that, Mr. Angel and Miss Majak kind of make the decisions to determine it. If it's somebody that we feel is responsible enough to be able to handle something, Miss Navarrete and I would recommend. So, I mean, that would be more of a one-on-one question, but honestly, I don't think there's anybody that we would be like, no, there's no way that they should be able to do this. Because there might be some people that might need a little bit of extra support at the beginning, but there's nobody that we feel like no way at all should they have any chance at all type of thing, you know? Because we don't have any, we don't have any major behavior, issues in our class, and most people are pretty responsible when, with things. So yeah, if you've applied, then the next thing is our recommendation, and then Miss Majak and Mr. Angel make the decision. Okay?
Okay.
All right, Chris, go ahead.
My stepmother and my dad were wondering if it involved any money at any time.
Nope. It is completely, you pay nothing. You don't get paid, but you don't have to pay anything. Okay. Even the sashes for the safety patrol, those are provided to you. You don't have to pay for from what I understand, you don't have to pay for them. I've never known safety patrols to have to pay for their own, sashes or anything, the band. So yeah, it's completely free. And anybody who, like I said, if transportation is an issue or anything like that, that's what they'll deal with after to see if it's something they can work with, okay? But yeah, everything is free.
Right. And the safety patrol thing, like that, with the more that's actually a good thing, because that's what I was thinking of being.
Yeah, and safety patrol, well, any of the jobs is really good, like practice and responsibility, because it's about being there on time, making sure you're doing your job and everything like that. So it's good practice, especially going for middle school when you have to be very responsible with things, okay? All right, I thought I saw, now people's screens are moving. All right, any other questions about 5th grade jobs? All right, okay, so we are, like I said, I wanted to kind of go over some of the standards that are the geometry stuff that you guys have been working on with Khan Academy this week. So you guys were sent 2 PowerPoints. That is simply just for you to have as a reference, okay? Kind of like if we were putting stuff in our notebook at school and then you go back to your notebook and look it over. So that's why I sent you those 2 PowerPoints, because it just kind of helps you with some of the vocabulary and gives you some of the examples, okay? So let me share my screen. Let me find the right screen to share with you first. Help. All right, so, okay, so this was the PowerPoint that you guys were first sent. It has to do with the vocabulary for like lines and rays and angles and things like that, okay? So what I want to, let me try and move some things. Gotta move some stuff. Okay, so what I wanted to go through was just to kind of go through some of this vocabulary and talk about it, and also go through this PowerPoint so that when you're looking back at it later, you understand what you're looking at and what you might be reading, okay? So if we were in school, this would have been the chart that you would have put in your notebook, but we're not in school and everything's digital. So you already have the PowerPoint for you to look back at, okay? So the first thing, and it talks about this in your Khan Academy videos, the first thing is a point. So a point is an exact location in space. So literally, if I come over here and I draw a point, that is a point. That is a point. That is a point. These are all points, okay? There is no line. There is no connection between them. A point is a single spot in space, okay? When we talk about how we name them, we call it point A or point B or point C, and they're always, in geometry, we always use letters. So we might have a point that is marked with a letter. Then when we start to actually connect the points, that's when you have a straight line, okay? So a line would be a straight path of points that continues without end in both directions. So when you see it, you'll have an arrow on both sides, because think about number lines. When we do number lines, they have an arrow on both sides. So it continues left and right, or up and down, or diagonally in both directions, and it goes on forever and ever and ever. But a line would be the points that connect it, that show it goes from point A to point B, or point B to point C, okay? When we actually read this, we're gonna read it as line BC, or line CB. And either way, it doesn't matter because it's going on and on forever. So, whoops. So if I were to actually try to connect these lines, whoops. If I'm actually drawing a line, then I would start at a point and I would draw it to another point. And if I'm properly making it as a line, it has to have an arrow, okay? Because a line goes on and on forever and ever and ever, like a number line. Like we always say, we can count up forever, we can count down forever, okay? All right, whoops. My computer's messing up. There we go. All right, so then we have a ray, okay? So think about like sun's rays or like a ray of light. There is a starting point somewhere, and then it continues in one direction without end. So kind of like if we're talking about the sun's rays, the sun is your starting point, and then the rays will go on and on until it hits Earth or until it just goes on and on in space forever and ever. It keeps going in one direction forever without ending. So if you notice, there's only one arrow on there. But we call it a ray, and we would use those same points like we would with a line. So we could look back at this line and actually turn it into a ray, because if we chop off this arrow and say B is our starting point, that's where it starts. It doesn't go past B, but it will go to C and keep going and going forever. That's what would make it a ray, right? So we've got points, lines, rays, and then we have line segments, okay? When we think about a segment is just part of something. Like a segment on a TV show would be just one part of it. Or if we talk about a segment of our day, it might just be lunchtime is a segment of our day. So a line segment is actually, you have a starting point and you have an ending point, okay? Nothing continues past those. So it is only the space between those, and we would call, like this one, for example, is line segment DE. It is only the space between those. There's no arrows anywhere on there, right? So if we were to chop off the arrows from a line and turn it into a line segment, then we can do that. So even on a line, we could say there's a line segment as long as it's a starting point and an ending point, right? Let me get back to, all right, let me stop sharing. Okay. I know I'm like throwing a lot at you, but like I said, this is kind of a review of what's in the Khan Academy. Questions about points, lines, line segments, rays, anything like that? Any questions at all? Gabby, go ahead.
Okay. When we had to go on Khan Academy and we had to do like the little we had to do the questions.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing I didn't understand it as well. I mean, I watched the videos,
mm-hmm.
and I had to rewatch them because I kind of got it, but then I didn't get it.
And that's totally fine, because that's also why I wanted to do this, because I know we didn't do any of this in school, but it's something that I definitely wanted you guys to have going into 5th grade, like an understanding of it. So I've looked at some of the scores on Khan Academy, and it's okay that, oops, let me admit, it's okay if some of your scores are lower, because it is the first time you're doing it. You're just practicing.
Okay.
So it's totally fine. So let's think about like what I just talked about, the points, the lines, the rays, and the line segments. Did you have questions about anything related to those? Or does this kind of help in that PowerPoint kind of help clarify?
Okay.
Good, okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, as we go through and as we do more practice with it, if you guys have questions, you can email me or we can do a Zoom session or something like that, okay? This is totally just an intro for you guys because it's the first time we're doing it. So you're never gonna master something the very first time you do it, or rarely would you master something the very first time you do it, okay? That's why we do it when we practice stuff, right? Let me check the chat. All right, let's see. Oops, okay. All right, so let me screen share mine again.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Devin, go ahead.
So, for the line segments, are we gonna in Khan Academy? Is that the thing that's gonna be mostly going on in Khan Academy? now? Like the lines, angles, line segments.
So yeah, this week you've got like the lines and the angles to kind of introduce that. And then next week you'll have some other things related to that. We're kind of building on some of our geometry, because geometry we do usually get to later in the year and we just didn't get a chance to get to it. So I want to make sure that you guys have that and that we're practicing with it. So next week you'll also have some geometry lessons on Khan Academy too.
But I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What game? It's not like a question for like the Khan Academy or anything, but what kind of games would we be able to play? Like, would we be able to play Roblox on these computers?
That I'm not sure, because if it's a school computer, then certain things you can't download or you're not supposed to. So
Some games you don't have to download, you can just go to it. Yeah.
also, I'm going to ask you guys not to be chatting, because I'm seeing like messages are popping up and it sounds, and from what I'm reading is it's things that shouldn't be typed. So I'm either going to ask you to stop chatting and putting things in the chat window, or I'm going to have to start kicking people out. And I really don't want to have to do that, because that's not the purpose of this. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Smith.
please leave the chat alone. If you have a question, raise your hand because I can see you on the screen, or unmute yourself and just kind of speak up, because when I'm sharing, I can't see all the screens, but the chat, we got to stop. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, because they just keep yelling and it keeps going
Well,
up.
that's what, again, mine kept dinging, and that's what I just looked at, because we're having a conversation here, but then chat is a whole different thing. So the chat, we don't need to use the chat. Okay.
They keep popping up, so I can't really see you or the stuff.
Yeah. So for now, if you have a question, click the raise hand button, or raise your hand on your video, or, let me know, but leave the chat alone, because it's becoming an issue. And for some reason it's not letting me turn it off. Otherwise I would, because once I started it, the chat's already on. So I'm just going to say, leave chat alone. Speak if you have a question. Okay. All right. So let me go back to our, whoops. There we go. All right. So
Wait.
Go ahead. Devin, go ahead.
It's about the game thing again. Wouldn't you be able to ask Mr. Angel or like somebody from the school if we're able to play Roblox on these computers?
Devin, I'm going to say ask me at the end, and let's talk about it at the end. If it's not related to geometry right now, save it. Okay?
Okay.
All right. All right. So we've got points, lines, rays, line segments. Then we move into angles. Okay? So an angle is basically you have two rays or two lines or two line segments that somehow create where we've got the corners. So just like when we talked about shapes before, where you've got your corners or your vertices, that's where you've got your angles, right? So like the definition says, formed by two rays or line segments that have the same endpoint. The shared endpoint is called a vertex. So a vertex is one. A vertice would be if you have more than one. So like a square, it has 4 vertices, but one corner is one vertex, okay? So it's singular versus plural. Vertex is singular, okay? So an angle has one vertex. And basically the way we identify it is we look at an angle and we are looking at from this point over to this point, over to this point, we have angle FGH. Or if we go the other way, we've got angle H, G, and F. Or we can just name it after the vertex and say it's angle G. So wherever the points meet, or wherever the line segments meet at that point, that's your vertex, that's the name of the angle. But we can't have, for example, angle GFH, because G to F to H does not create an angle. There's a big opening in there, right? So it has to be from the start of an angle around to the other side of the angle, and that's how we would name it. So that's why it says when you read it, when we look at this, we're like, oh, it's angle FGH. That's what it means by the reading it, right? So when we talk about an angle, I'm going to switch over to this one. We actually have 4 different types of angles, and some of you are probably familiar with some of these simply because of either iReady or because of just conversations we've had or you've had in 3rd grade about shapes. But there's actually, we typically think of 3 different types of angles, but what we're looking at is we've got the right angle. So we got a square, we have a rectangle, you have a right angle. It creates some type of square corner, okay? So we have
Smith,
yeah, go ahead.
It's making me see your screen, and the thing you're sharing is at the like corner of my screen, like a little box.
I'm not sure how to fix that right now. If you need to, on your computer, this is the same PowerPoint that I sent you. So if you're able to download that, or honestly, Chris, right now, if you just want to listen and then later on you can look back at it, if that helps. I'm not sure how you would switch back without me like, having it.
I think he might have minimized his screen, and then like it creates like a mini square
I think
in like the corner.
you have to like press the square thing.
Yeah, I think if you like, it might zoom in or get bigger if you click on the
Press
screen.
Yeah. So there's like once you minimize out of it, you go like you put your mouse on the square, then it says exit minimize video. It's like a green arrow and like a mini box square.
No, I'm just gonna leave meeting and join back in and see if it works then.
Okay, if you need to. And like I said, when I do the video playback, I'm recording it in that with my screen as the large screen. So if you have to go back and watch the video again, then you'll see my screen as the large screen, okay? All right, so like I was saying, so the right angle creates a square angle. So if you have a rectangle or a square, then you have a right angle. If you have the corner of something like a square room, then you've got a right angle, right? Like if you're looking at your doorway, you've got a right angle because most doors are rectangles, right? The measure for this is going to be 90 degrees, right? This is exactly 90 degrees every single time. So if we were to get out a protractor and measure it, it will be 90 degrees exactly every single time. Okay.
No.
Then if we were to take this angle and we were to move this arrow all the way down, we would end up with something called a straight angle. So basically it looks like a line, right? It's forming a line. But if we were looking at this as an angle that it started out over here and then it moved so that it was all the way down to there, right? We would open it up. That's an angle and it would actually measure, well, if I have a 90-degree angle over here and a 90-degree angle over there, how many degrees would it be total? Anybody?
180 degrees.
Yep, so a straight angle is always 180 degrees, okay? So if you have a straight line, then if there is a point there, or if it is something that is movable, if we're looking at angles, it's 180 degrees. So again, we get a protractor out. If we were to pull that out and measure it, it's going to be exactly 180 degrees every single time. Just like the right angle is 90 degrees every single time. Because if we look, I could take this right angle, and if I were to extend it out this way, whoops.
I've been doing some too.
Good. So if we extend it out this way, I've got a 90-degree angle there, and then I have another 90-degree angle over here. So all together, we have a total of 180 degrees, which is what makes the straight angle over here, right? So somewhere between 90 and 180 degrees, I'm actually going to, somewhere between 90 and 180 degrees, we have what's called an obtuse angle. That means that it's greater than a right angle and less than a straight angle. So if it's greater than a right angle, it's more than 90 degrees. If it's less than a straight angle, it's less than 180. So it is somewhere between 90 and 180.
Ever since I started doing the Khan Academy angles things, I've been doing examples.
Good. And that's what you should do, because I honestly, the tough thing about online learning is that it minimizes what you guys have to do on paper, but it's always good to go back on paper and to draw things or write things down, because then your brain will make the connection more. So that's really good, Devin. Right?
Yeah, and I also think it's really fun doing it.
When angles and geometry are really fun, that's what's disappointing, is that because we get into it later in the year, there's different activities and fun stuff that I always enjoy doing that we don't get to do because we're not together, but it's things that we still have to go over so that you go into 5th grade with it, because I know that they start hitting more geometry throughout the year too, right? So an obtuse angle, if we want to think about obtuse, we have that OB. So if we think about like the word obese, obese meaning very large, like somebody who's very large or overweight, something that is bigger, that is wider. So it's obtuse, okay? So if something is obtuse, then it's larger than the 90 degrees, right? So it's going to be larger than the 90 degrees. Then if we were to swing it the other way and make it smaller than 90 degrees, so it's less than a right angle, this could go all the way down to a measurement of 0 degrees to less than 90 degrees, okay? So somewhere between 0 and 90 degrees.
What's his name?
This one we're going to call acute.
Oh.
So, and again,
We're not
another way to kind of think about that is if we have the word cute, like something is cute and it's little, like a puppy.
right?
Somebody's unmuted. If you guys can make sure your mics are muted, because I muted everybody. So if we think about the word cute, like if you have a small, cute little puppy, it's smaller. So it's something that's like acute. That's going to be your smaller angle, okay? So it's something that's less than a right angle, all right? So we've got obtuse.
Teleport.
We've got obtuse, we've got right angles, we've got acute, and we've got straight angles, okay?
Aren't there YouTubers?
So let me stop sharing and trying to make sure everybody's muted. All right, so questions about angles. Questions we have about angles, and then we'll do a quick practice with that. All right, Maria, go ahead. Oh.
So you're trying to say so this thing we use as a measurement.
That's a protractor. Yep, that's exactly what we use for measuring. Good.
That's why I use it.
Yeah, because if we want to find the exact measurement of an angle, then we would use a protractor. So it might be that we have to pull that out and figure out, we might say, yeah, that's definitely an acute angle because it's smaller than 90 degrees and I can see that, but I don't know what it measures. So then you'd pull out your protractor and you'd use it for that. And again, that's something that there are videos that I'm going to send you guys, and I can send you guys, that show you how to practice with a protractor. It's tough because without having a protractor in your hand, you can watch a video, but it's hard to practice with it until it's in your hand because it's an actual tool that you have to be able to use. So if you have one, practice with it. Grab things that you can measure or draw angles and see if you can measure them. If you don't, that's okay, because when you go to 5th grade, they have protractors. They will have you practicing with protractors, okay? All right, so I can see everybody's screen. So use your hands to show me a 90-degree angle on your screen. How would you use your hands to show a 90-degree angle? Okay, so use your hands to show me an obtuse angle. What would an obtuse angle? Think obtuse meaning like obese, like wider, bigger, right? All right, so what about a straight angle? Good. And honestly, the way you use your hands is kind of good with angles, because you have 2 rays and you have a vertex, which is where your hands meet. So if you have an obtuse angle, it's wider. If you have a straight angle, I can't bend mine because of my wrist, but if you're able to do a straight angle and make your hand straight. What about an acute angle? What is an acute angle look like?
Teleport.
So if it's acute, that means it's going to be a small angle, right? That you could even do with just your fingers. You could make an acute angle with just 2 fingers. So an acute angle, let's see, show me a right angle. Show me a 90-degree angle. Did anything change? No. So a right angle is exactly 90 degrees, okay? Show me an obtuse angle that is almost a straight angle, but not quite. So I see like Devin has an obtuse angle that's almost a straight angle, but not quite, because he's almost at the 180 degrees. So it's a really wide angle, but it's not a straight line. And I see Chloe has it, and Tony has it, and Ryan has it. Good. Show me an acute angle that is almost 0. an acute angle that is almost 0, meaning it might only be 5 degrees, or it might only be 10 degrees. So it's an angle, but it's a really thin, skinny angle. Okay, good. So you guys can put your hands down. I wanted to kind of do that quick practice just to kind of see, like, is it making sense as we're going through this and as you're doing your Khan Academy videos, okay? So I'm not going to overload you. That was literally what I wanted to go over today because it's, Devin, please stop. So that was kind of what I wanted to go over today because I just wanted to make sure that 1, we were clear on what you're seeing in Khan Academy, and 2, we get a chance to go over that vocabulary. There are some things in your PowerPoints that you got that we didn't go over today. We'll talk about that a little bit next week and with one of the activities that I'm going to have you guys do. So next week, I'm actually going to have you do something that is on paper that I will have you bring to our Zoom session. Not something that's going to take you like super long time, but it will just be a practice that you can kind of share out or show, okay? So just make sure you have paper and pencil between now and next like Tuesday, okay? But are there any questions about any of the vocabulary that we went over today with geometry? Devin? Right now, I'm only taking questions about geometry stuff, and then I'll start releasing people. Devin, did you have a question? You're muted. Okay, go ahead.
It's about the geometry, but the activities we're going to be doing that we would have done in the future if the coronavirus. What if we did a Zoom meeting and then we did it at home and then like you showed us on the Zoom meeting?
Well, that's what I was saying is that between now and next week, and we'll have another Zoom session next Wednesday or Thursday. I have to look at my schedule because I have other meetings too. But I'll make sure it's on the weekly checklist. Wednesday or Thursday, we'll have another Zoom meeting. But between now and then, like the first part of next week, you guys will actually have a couple of things that I'll have you guys do on paper that you can then hold up and share or talk about in our Zoom meeting next week, okay? And it's kind of like if we were to do something in class while you guys were working on it independently and then we were talking about it all together. So we'll kind of do that similarly to like we would do in class, right? All right, any other questions about geometry? All right, if you guys don't have any questions about it, if you find that you have questions, especially as you're going through your Khan Academy assignments, email me, let me know. If we have to do a separate Zoom session, we can, but you just have to communicate with me and let me know. Otherwise, you guys are free to go, and I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to start unmuting you guys just so we can do a quick see you later. And then if you have questions for me, stay behind, and then you can ask me those questions, okay? But we'll kind of, I'm unmuting. Some of you are staying muted because you're muted yourself, okay?
Hey, Devin.
What?
Devin.
What?
Stay here, okay? For a second.
I am.
Last.
For those of you leaving,
Devin.
see you later. Have a
Devin.
good week.
Devin.
Joel, I can teleport.
Devin, look in chat. Look in chat.
Oh my God.
Devin, look in chat.
I see your video. Oh, in chat. Oh. Okay.
Do you have any videos you can send me about fractions and stuff?
Devin,
So Maria, yeah, I will look at I'll look at which skills you were working on this week, and then I'll kind of see I'll find some videos that might be helpful. And like I said, Oliver, hold on just a second. And then Maria, if the videos don't help, or if you just want to do a separate one-on-one Zoom session, we can do that too, okay? So I'll look and I'll send them to you later today, like this afternoon or evening, and then you can watch them today or tomorrow, and then let me know, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yep, no problem.
Devin.
Addison, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's about like a school. Like, what if you left something on your desk, like inside your actual desk, or like something that you need?
That Miss Navert is going into school on Monday, and all the the people in the blue wing and the 4th grade teachers are going in, and they're basically, if you left anything in your desk, they're taking it out and then they're putting it into separate bags. Miss Majak is going to send a message to parents, I think next week, about coming to pick things up. Okay.
Okay, because I left my crayon box in there and I need it.
Yeah, it's for all that stuff, and I know like my room doesn't have desks. it was only the tables. So everything that anybody might have would be in Miss Maverick's room. And she said that she's going to pack it up next week. But then your parents will get a message about it to let you know about picking it up and stuff. Okay?
On Dojo, they're gonna get a message on Dojo, or
It'll be from Miss Majak, so it's probably going to be a phone call and maybe an email.
okay.
Okay?
Second day of the start.
Devin.
I can teleport. Watch.
Tony, I'd like you to draw all these that you're missing.
You're not.